Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 244 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and a two-time author. Our second book is called From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. So we call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, we had our best year ever in 2021 when we shifted from basically in-person programming to virtual programming on Zoom of all things. It enabled us to reach even more customers than before, sometimes multiple universities in one day, and our travel budget was significantly lower in this model. That allowed us to offer special pricing to our clients that ordinarily would have been out of reach for them. So I think we learned a lot about virtual presenting in that process last year and how to keep students engaged online, but we still have so much more to learn, and I don't think virtual learning is going anywhere. So let's dive in. Our next guest is Diana L. Howles, an award-winning speaker, global virtual facilitator, and master trainer who brings 25 years of experience in the talent development field. She is a virtual training expert and has designed and facilitated live, online, and blended learning programs for organizations since 2000 in more than a dozen countries. As a professional speaker, she has addressed hundreds of audiences and has trained Fortune 100 and 500 companies, government agencies, academic institutions on a variety of professional business skills. Currently, she is the CEO and co-owner of Howles Associates. Her learning and development articles have appeared in publications such as TD, Learning Solutions, Training, trainingmag.com, and she is author of the book. It's called Next Level Virtual Training that came out this year. Diana earned her master's degree from Colorado State University and is a frequent presenter at in-person and virtual international and national conferences. Welcome to the show, Diana.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Of course, it's my pleasure. You know, I love talking about speaking. I love talking about virtual programming, and you're the expert. And all of our listeners right now, I'm sure they're very comfortable, both obviously in person, which is probably what they prefer is my guess, but also virtual learning. It's been a part of their learning experience for the last couple of years in college. So I can't wait to dive in on this topic. You have so many great tips to share with our audience, but I want them to know a little bit more about your background first. You decided on Minnesota State University for your undergraduate experience. So I'm curious, why did you decide on Minnesota State?
Yeah, it's so cold there, right? And
Yes.
we talked about this, Mike. You went to Buffalo with the cold and the snow. Minnesota is the same thing. I know you're no stranger to lake effect snow over there in Buffalo, right? Which we didn't necessarily have in Minnesota, but they had an award-winning forensics team. And I was a big speaker, still am a big speaker. And so I had a lot of scholarships that they offered me. And also I wanted to be on their speech team. And that was actually my area of study as well, but it was also very affordable. There is a wonderful reciprocity program for Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, where they can charge tuition that's comparable to in-state. It's just an agreement between those Midwestern states. So it makes it really affordable. And my father, when we were very young, my siblings and I, he told us, you're going to college, but you are going to pay for it yourselves. And I know our listeners are probably thinking, what? How is that possible? Because today that wouldn't be possible because, you know, it's tens of thousands of dollars. But back then it was sort of affordable, but we knew that we would have to put ourselves through college. So we worked really hard, applied for every scholarship possible. And anyway, it was a great solution for me because it met all of those criteria that I had.
Yeah, it sounds like you and I grew up in the same household because my dad was the same exact way. He was like, you're going to pay for all of it. So you got to choose wisely on where you're going to go to school. And so I was living in New York and Buffalo was in-state tuition and it was extremely affordable. And then you got this really high quality education for the money. So the ROI on that was very good.
There you
And so I
go.
think that's why I ended up in Buffalo. And so, yeah, you and I, we were just freezing while we were undergrads.
And
And that was a normal life.
my father says, oh, it's going to mean more to you because, you put yourself through school. I'm not sure that's necessarily true, but that was his line.
Yeah, my dad used the same line. I think we have the same
They
father.
must have, they were related somehow.
Probably. So, and I love that, you were so focused on speaking from the get-go. I can't, that's where I think we're different. I think I came into college with no public speaking skills, very much an introvert. And I think the
Mhm.
fraternity kind of brought that out of me in terms
Yeah.
of being social and then engaging my brothers. Eventually, I became chapter president. So I had to
Wow.
address my brothers every single week. And I think it was that practice of every week getting up in front of a crowd when I'm like, okay, I can do this. But I certainly did not come into college thinking that that was going to be my path. That is for sure. I was an accounting major of all things.
Oh,
So,
oh,
yeah,
cool.
so very different routes for
That
sure.
is so cool. But practice for sure, right?
Yeah.
The more you do something, the more comfortable you get at it and the more
Yeah.
ease you have, and then the more fun you have. So practice is key.
I agree completely. And so, speaking about practice and speaking, you're an award winning speaker, you're an international trainer, you've got 25 years of professional experience, you've coached hundreds of clients, you've worked as voiceover talent, on camera talent. So, we're talking about commercials, video, TV, film. You also work behind the camera as a script writer, a director, and multimedia producer. So, I'm wondering, since we're talking about virtual meetings, I mean, do you believe that virtual meetings are here to stay even after this whole pandemic is over?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. We sort of all got our feet wet and it's so convenient, right? To be able to connect like we're doing today. And those of our listeners that are listening on audio, we also have sort of this video component right now, but it's so convenient. It's a way to connect and reach across the world. We really have sort of a global village, if you will, and it's because technology has enabled us to connect in this way. So we're seeing the shift to hybrid as well, where we have virtual and in person together in the same shared space. But we definitely will see virtual is here to stay. I would make that case. Yes.
Yeah, you're so right. And this podcast, I mean, you're, guest number, 244. I don't think we would have been able to get to this point if not for the technology. I mean, I can
Mhm.
interview anybody in the world. We've had international guests, from Australia and all of these places.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, Japan. There's no way that I would be able to sit down with everybody. I mean,
Right.
God only knows what the travel expenses would be like. It would be
Yeah.
fun, but I don't think I can afford the travel expense.
Yes, it opens so many doors, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to see when we should see is those technologies will become easier and easier. And that's what we want. We want it to become more seamless, user friendly. So we're going to see that evolution, down the road here.
Yeah, I agree completely. Now, our college students who are listening, they're doing Zoom meetings for interviews, other big opportunity meetings that they're having. Can you give us some top tips to looking your best on camera when we're using Zoom or other modern video conferencing platforms?
Yeah, I have an acronym that I say. I like to say that clean up your on-camera image with bleach. And bleach is the acronym. So the letters BLEACH remind us of the things that we need to pay attention to. So B is for background, L is for lighting, E is expressions, A is angle, C is clothing, the color you wear, and H is headroom.
Wow, I love it. So that's real easy for us to remember. I mean, I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. That's fantastic. Now, I don't want to make any mistakes on these Zoom meetings that I'm having. I'm meeting with clients, universities across the country, business partners, I mean, all kinds of people. So are there some on-camera mistakes that I want to avoid?
Yeah, so let's go through that acronym and we can talk about those errors. So
Okay.
when we talk about B for background, so really we want to declutter your background. Whatever is in your frame either calls attention to itself or it actually focuses on you, which is what we want. We want them to focus on you, the student, your message when you're doing a job interview, when you're talking to your professor, when you're presenting to your colleagues in your classes. So make sure that you move things out of the frame that are distracting. They can still stay in your dorm room or wherever you're, broadcasting from, but they're just outside the frame so they don't call attention away from you. And then L is lighting. Make sure you light from the front, not from the back. Otherwise, you cast yourself in silhouette. So find some lights, get them. You can get them at Target or Amazon or wherever, and light yourself from the front on each device. And don't have a window behind you. And then for E, using your expressions, make sure you're connecting by finding the camera lens. So important about connection to look where the camera lens is when you need to for those kind of important points. Not that you need to be looking there all the time, but certainly that you can direct and find that focus. And gestures too, it's important to use hand gestures, but just remember that we move slower on camera because otherwise it creates blurs when we're on camera. And then, so that's the expressions. So BELEA. A is angle. We want to make sure that you're not at an awkward angle. You've seen those framings where somebody has like a laptop and they're looking down. It feels like somebody is looking down at you, this looming posture. It's really intimidating to feel like you're sort of subordinate to somebody looking over or looking down at you. We call that sort of the double chin angle as well. Or when people move on camera and they get really big and really close, that feels like you're in a fighting stance with somebody. Like our brain thinks, oh, you're so close, I need to protect myself. So you really want to build rapport. You want to be at about eye level in terms of your angle. Raise up that laptop, put something underneath it so that the camera lens is kind of about at your hairline. So that's A. C is clothing. So it doesn't matter what you wear on the bottom, but on top, you want to dress professional. Students, if you're doing a job interview, it does matter what's in the frame. So, solid colors work great. If you have blues and greens and browns and tans, those solid colors really help you pop. So that's C. And then H is headroom. You want to have just a little bit of small margin of headroom up here. Center yourself in the frame. Give yourself a little headroom. I call it the 3-finger rule. So if you put 3 fingers and you lay them horizontally above your hair, that's about the amount of space that you want to have. Sometimes we see all this real estate wasted, right? With this little head way over on the corner, kind of truncated at the chin. Mike, I see you laughing there. We don't want to do that. People can establish a first impression in just a few seconds, right? And you want to make a good impression. So those are some things to keep in mind.
I love it. So now I have to totally redo my setup. I'm violating some of the
Rethink
rules.
Everything, right?
I love it. I love it. Now, I always want to look younger on camera, right? So look at these. I have these major bags under my eyes because I never sleep. I literally get like 4 hours of sleep a night.
You had a hard week.
Yeah, and I had a hard week. It was busy. I got quotes. I'm closing deals. I mean, I'm like working the phones, the whole thing. But I mean, now you can tell my age. Look at these bags.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how can I look younger on these Zoom calls?
That's a great question. And college students, they don't have to worry about it, right? Because they look young. We all want to look like you again, folks. So enjoy it in your 20s and 30s. But yeah, when we are on Zoom, there are a couple tricks. One is lighting. If you light yourself well, it actually can hide wrinkles. It can hide those things, Mike, you were talking about under your eyes. So if you have a soft, even light on each side of your device, and you'll watch those wrinkles go away. With poor lighting, it actually looks like you have more wrinkles. And then, of course, Zoom has this really nice feature where, of course, you can do studio effects too, which is kind of fun. Gentlemen can play around with the goatee. Women can play with the lipstick if they want to. But there is a way for you to go into the video, excuse me, and improve your appearance. So what it does is it sort of smooths your skin and it kind of removes some of those wrinkles as well. So there are just little ways that you can kind of touch up your appearance on Zoom if you want, but lighting is the traditional way that you can do it.
I love it. See, we have filters to make us look younger. And then they meet us in person for the first time. And
I know, right?
Oh, that's you.
Look like you're 80. Yeah. In person.
But it is kind of funny to me because I think about that all the time. I do some work over at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University, which is close to my home. And yeah, I've been working there for a couple of years now, and a lot of our meetings, most of our meetings are all virtual. They're all on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I did like this in-person speech slash facilitation on stage at MTSU recently, and I was meeting a lot of my coworkers for the first time, and they're like,
Right?
"Oh, okay, that's what you look like." It's
Yeah.
such a weird time that we're living in right now.
In real life. I've worked with this one individual for about 3-4 years, and I'm going to meet her for the first time, I think, in about a month. And she says, I'm really short. Like, you have no sense of height. And I'm like, you're short? And she's like, yeah, I'm really short. And then this other gentleman that I worked with for a while virtually, I met him and he's like over 6 feet. But you don't get a sense of height when you work virtually with people. So it is different. You sort of have to reacclimate when you meet them in person after
Yeah.
working with them online for so long.
I think I have to like prepare people too, because I'm kind of short too. So I should
Are you?
just be
Yeah.
like, by the way, when you meet me, I'm like, I'm kind of short. So just
Right.
keep that in mind. I don't want to
Yeah,
shock
it's
you.
like a different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. That's so funny. Now, what if our students are doing a hybrid event? Maybe they are engaging people on camera and also in person, maybe their classmates and other things. So how do you engage people on dual platforms?
Yeah, that's a great question. So relevant to today. I love the hybrid media. I know it's challenging, but what I really try to do is build community within each venue. So I encourage the virtual folks to join early, because then you can troubleshoot any technical difficulties, get them talking to each other, talk to them before it starts, before your meeting starts. Then when the in-person folks come in, make sure that you are referencing both the folks that are in room and the folks that are online. And you can get them interacting with each other and call them out. For example, Mike, we haven't heard from you. What are your thoughts about this? So really bridging people together. And ideally, we want to make the technology disappear eventually. And I know it's so new for us now, but it is really important that you have very good technology, really good audio, which is so important, because you don't want somebody virtually not able to hear either the presenter or anyone else who's in room. That's important. And I've also found it's really important for the in-room folks to see everyone virtually. So I remind people, be camera ready, because we want to see you. And also for the camera to be on the in-room folks so that the remote people can also see them. Then they tell me, it feels like I'm there because there's a camera there. So really important to have that technology in place and make sure you have good audio and test everything.
I love that. Now, speaking of audio, right now on this interview, I'm using the microphone that's embedded in my laptop. Do you think that's a mistake? I mean, what technology should I be using to make sure that I have great audio in these Zoom sessions?
Yeah, you sound really good today, Mike. Normally we do recommend that you use an external microphone,
Okay.
because often the microphone built in your device sometimes can sound like you're in a cave. It can sound tinny. It sounds like you're at a distance. So really, there's so many affordable options for external microphones. So we do encourage people and professionals and students too. You can get like a Samsung microphone, external USB microphone, for maybe $30. So very affordable, all the way up to $100 and more, but just an easy plug-in USB microphone or a headset works well. And that can really improve your audio quality.
I love it. One other thing I was thinking about, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but that's okay. Um, as the speaker, right? So, I noticed that a lot of times the students who are listening to the speech online, they might have their cameras off. And so
Mm.
as a speaker, it's really hard to get a sense if your talk is landing, because you can't see those students in real time. And you also want to engage them too, so that way they feel like they're a part of this production. So, I mean, do you have any tips in terms of making sure that the students have their cameras on, and then like also engaging them in that virtual room to make them feel like they're a part of this program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always prepare people. I tell them, be camera ready. So this is well before that meeting day or that class day. And then when they come, and we encourage them to be on camera, and we explain why, right? As adults, we always want to know why. And it's the benefits of establishing presence. It establishes the sense of person, the sense of place. We see some of your nonverbal communication, not all of it, of course, but if people still elect to not be on camera, we never force them, because we don't know. They were up all night with a sick child. Maybe they're ill. Maybe they didn't sleep at all. We don't know the circumstances. So we strongly encourage, but we never force. And I always try to explain the benefits of being on camera too. And sometimes if we put them in a breakout room right away, I always encourage them in those small groups of 3 to 4 people, do come on camera. And often they will, because that smaller group feels a little safer. And there's also this peer pressure. When my colleagues, let's say 3 other colleagues, turn on their camera, and I'm in this group of 4 in a virtual breakout, and I don't turn my camera on, I'm probably going to be a little bit more influenced to be like my peers, right? Especially in college. And so anyway, it just helps build better connection. When they come back from the breakouts, you'll find that sometimes they'll stay on camera because they've warmed up in a way. They already were on camera for the small breakout, but definitely encourage, but never force.
I love that idea. I never really thought about that, the differences between a small room breakout and the larger room with all the students. And so maybe just getting them in a breakout first.
Getting them to warm up. Yeah.
Warm up and then bringing them into the big room.
Right.
That will help them to get their cameras on. And then just in the mode of participating, feeling like, hey, okay, I'm a part of this. I can't just be, in the background somewhere. So that's really good. And then, right now, a lot of students are interviewing for jobs. The students that are close to graduation, they're thinking about, hey, how can I get a job out after graduation? So what other advice do you have for students to land their dream job if they're doing a Zoom interview, other than some of the things that we talked about?
Yeah, I love that question. So I would say pay attention to 3 things. Pay attention to connection, pay attention to framing, and you also want to pay attention to what I call camera awareness. So first of all, when we say pay attention to connection. So when you think about when you're interviewing with someone, you're really establishing rapport, you're building relationship, you want to come across credible. And so one of the best ways we connect with people is eye contact. So remember, know where that camera lens is, students, on your device. Find it, test it, because some people think the camera lens is over there, but then it isn't. And so that can look like you're looking off to the side, or you're looking around, or you don't know where to look. So you can record yourself, easy to do, and say, okay, now I'm looking at my camera lens, play it back and make sure it looks like you're looking right at them. But that helps to build that connection, which is so important for you as you're interviewing. And then the second one that I talk about is framing. Remember that what is seen in the frame says something about you. It establishes an impression about you, and you want to put your best foot forward when you're interviewing. So move things outside of the camera frame that don't reflect well on you or are distracting. And then obviously, dress professional on top. And then that third one is what I call camera awareness. Be aware of when your camera is on, when it should be off, and what is projecting at all times. So I heard about this interview for somebody was interviewing and did very well on camera. But then at the end of the interview, the individual said, "Thank you so much," and closed the laptop halfway, but the camera was still on. So the interview panel was left looking at the person's stomach. It was just sort of, and left that way, right? And so the panel was like, oh, which is a bit of an awkward moment. So it's this camera awareness of, when is my camera on? When is it off? And when it's on, what am I projecting, so that you can put your best self forward?
I love it. Those are some great tips. I know you've helped a lot of students right there, and hopefully they land their dream job.
Yes, we hope so.
Let us know if you did. That would be fantastic. Now, we do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. And so next time I get to Madison, Wisconsin, I'm going to be looking for a good restaurant for some good food. Can you point me in the right direction? Where should I go for a great meal?
Oh, I'm a foodie too. And for Thai food, do you like Thai food?
Oh my God, you hit my favorite on your first try.
Oh, wow. And I hope some of our listeners, our student listeners, like Thai food too. So in Madison, there's a restaurant called Sabai Tong. Sabai tong, and it is excellent. So you can even get it Thai hot if you want it that spicy, or you can do the whole range, but it's excellent. And then I love Indian food too. Do you like Indian food?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
And hopefully some of our listeners like Indian food too. But in the Madison area, Swagat, which means hello, Swagat, Swagat is also an excellent Indian restaurant, authentic Indian. The Peshawari naan is wonderful, the chicken tikka masala. So check it out.
That sounds great. Yeah, we have the same exact taste in food. I think it's because I went to school in Buffalo. So like for 4 years, I'm eating like these hot buffalo wings.
Yeah.
And then I leave, right? And then it's like, okay, now what? And so the next thing is like all these curries, like at Indian or Thai restaurants. For me, I want it like as hot as possible. So
you like the spicy.
At an Indian restaurant, I'm ordering like chicken vindaloo for something.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's what I want. Like, I want it to look like it's on fire before I even eat it.
And then you're drinking water the whole they're coming by.
I'm drinking a lot of water because I'm sweating like profusely.
Right?
But it tastes so good.
That's how you know when it's so spicy. You just start sweating on the top of your head. Then you know it's good.
Then you know it's good. Like, I'm like, if I'm sweating, I love this food.
We both like spicy food, and we had the same father apparently who made us pay for our own college education. So look at that.
I know, we would get along really well. So I can't wait. Next time I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, we're going to go hit either the Thai restaurant or the Indian restaurant so we can talk a little bit more. It's a deal.
Yes, it's a deal. Done.
I love it. So if our listeners, if they want to book you to speak on their campus, maybe they need coaching services, maybe they want to buy your book called Next Level Virtual Training, where should they go to connect with you?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, which is www.howlesassociates.com. That's HOWLES as in Sam, associates, which is plural, .com. And our book is called Next Level Virtual Training, as you said, came out in May and of 2022 here this year, and is available on Amazon. So they can either find the book on Amazon or also on our website.
Very nice. Well, congratulations on the book. That is fantastic.
You.
I'm so glad we had some time to spend together this morning, because you've given me a lot of things for me to think about, to change about my setup, to make it a little bit better. So, hey, I'm always learning. Like, I never in a million years think that I know everything. I think more than anything, as I went for like my master's degree and other things, and maybe get the PhD, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. Like, there's a vast amount of information out there, and it's just I'm dedicated to just keep learning and keep improving. So after this interview, I know that I have some improvements to make. So I really appreciate you. This has been a lot of fun, Diana. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, it's my pleasure. And to our listeners, if you like this talk with Diana Howles, make sure that you like it. Make sure you share it with other students on campus. And we hope to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.